Hello, I'm Charles Kovess, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Kovess Show, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to a podcast. In this week's episode, I consider Tom Watson's well-known quote. Tom Watson, the founder of IBM. I have this on my wall. I also have it on my corporate brochure. It says this: follow the path of the unsafe, independent thinker. Expose your ideas to the danger of controversy. Speak your mind and fear less the label of crackpot than the stigma of conformity. You may know that I'm not a conformist. Well done. Today I explore this challenge of doing your own thinking. I give you 11 big reasons why I do my own thinking and don't follow the conformist view of complying with the government narrative on what I call Vidco, for obvious reasons. Can't call it by its proper name because one gets censored these days. I invite you to stick around and be educated, inspired and provoked to do more of your thinking around government narrative, both around Vidco and generally. This show is founded on the formula SA plus P equals S. Self-awareness plus passion equals success. This show is designed to help you be successful. Since 1993, when I left my legal career, my successful legal career, to become Australasia's passion provocateur, I've educated, inspired and provoked audiences all around the world to discover their passion and pursue their passion. And that requires self-awareness, to become aware of what you are actually passionate about. I've spoken at conferences. I've coached people one-on-one. I've worked with teams on an ongoing basis. And I've written 2 books on passion: Passionate People Produce and Passionate Performance. This show is also guided by Socrates' famous saying, "The unexamined life is not worth living." So I hope that I provoke you to examine your life, to ask the question, what is a worthwhile life for me? What is a life that has meaning for me? And exploring today's big idea is designed to help you craft the answer to those questions. You can see I'm wearing my red jacket, red the colour of passion, so that when you see anything red in your environment, you go, I wonder what I'm passionate about, or am I pursuing my passion because I know what I'm passionate about? Am I courageous enough to pursue my passion? Each week I explore one big idea that can change your life. One idea, because too many ideas confuse us and we do nothing. Progress. Progress makes us happy. And so if you improve with one big idea a week, that's 52 big ideas in a year. Amazing. This is episode 84 of the Charles Kovess Show. And the ideas I've shared with you, I'm proud that I've shared. And there's 84 big ideas that can change your life. Go back and listen to earlier episodes. Watch earlier episodes on YouTube. When I share the one big idea, I also share with you resources that will help you to implement that idea. A book, the lyrics of a song. I share a spiritual tip, a health tip, a quote, and some humour. You know, this life was not meant to be taken incredibly seriously, because after 120 years you'll be dead. What was the point of being totally serious about it? Plus, I'm chairman of the Australian Institute of Comedy and on the committee of the Australian Cartoon Museum, so humour plays a big part in my life. I hope it does in yours. Lighten up, as they say in the classics. This show is not politically correct. I have no desire to be politically correct, and I support useful addictions like my addiction for this wonderful stuff called coffee. This show also subscribes to the view that we have a spiritual life. That if you think life consists of only what you can see, then you are sadly ignorant. There's far more to life than what you can see or hear or touch with your 5 senses. I hope I provoke you into shifting your thinking about that as well. So, before we get into the big idea, what's happened this week since the previous show? This is episode 84, as I said. So, over the course of the last 7 days, we've had in Melbourne, where I live in Australia, the Melbourne Cup Carnival and the famous Melbourne Cup horse race on Tuesday, where we have a public holiday in Melbourne to honour this horse race that's been going since 1861. It's normally a pretty wild week. There are 4 big carnivals on the Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, and the following Saturday. That was yesterday. Some great horses racing, and people are celebrating because they've got the freedom to have a limited number, 10% of the normal crowd, because of Vidco. Well, there was some good racing, and it is very sad to me that these mad restrictions and lockdowns continue, but nevertheless, the television made it seem like it was a wonderful occasion, and certainly the newspapers give it plenty of coverage for the horses. There was a big demonstration against Vidco in the streets of Melbourne yesterday, a huge demonstration. And I can report to you that the Sunday newspapers have said nothing about it, certainly the main Sunday newspaper in Melbourne. So that's censorship alive and well. Julie went to the demonstration. It was peaceful, but a huge number of people. And I urge all of you who don't agree with the government narrative or what the government is doing to do something about it. Doing nothing is in fact colluding with the narrative. There's also the palaver going on in Glasgow about what they call COP26. You know my views on it, this whole issue of anthropogenic climate change. I have studied it. I've been involved in renewable energy since 1992 with GENI, the Global Energy Network Institute. And this whole game is about the globalist agenda of Australia and each country losing their sovereignty, of actually a depopulation agenda, and this idea of reducing carbon because we're all going to cook and this is the last chance for the planet is such a lie. Don't get sucked in by the lie, as today's show is about. It's about doing your own thinking. I'm inspired by the progress of Craig Kelly's United Australia Party. He now has over 75,000 members of this new political party, and that's because a lot of people are not accepting the government narrative. I have given a lot of legal strategic advice on legal moves for people who are losing their jobs because they have no jabs. And this mandating of these Vidco injections is a total disgrace. I say the government and the politicians, both federal and state governments, are acting criminally, because forcing somebody to have such an injection is actually assault. Do you know that? Assault. And I say our governments have been corrupted. I have evidence of that corruption. It saddens me. It's destroying Australia, but it strikes me that that's in fact the plan, to destroy it so that the globalist agenda, big business thrives, the technocracy thrives, small business, entrepreneurs get wiped out. That's the game plan, people. And if you think I'm a crackpot, wonderful. I don't care that you think I'm a crackpot, because I base my ideas I share with you on hard evidence. I look for the evidence. I inform myself. The people who are losing their jobs are good people. They understand what's in these injections, but they're not allowed to exercise dominion over their own body, which of course is another right that you have. And on top of all of that, whilst I'm passionate about all those issues, about what's going on in this country, around the world, I also assure you that I'm happy. I'm exercising every day. I'm fit. I'm healthy. So I urge you to be in the same way, that you hold this space of being happy while you are working hard, while you are passionate about issues, while you are fighting for your principles. Be happy. Don't wait to be happy until your dreams come true. No, be happy right now as you're pursuing your dreams, as you're pursuing your passion. So, time for our big idea. Before we do, I invite you to visit our websites, covest.com, charlescovest.com. Covest.com for corporate programs, charlescovest.com for the self-awareness and passion quest. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel or subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss an episode. And if you enjoy this, please share it with your family, your friends, your work colleagues, and anyone else you can think of. So today's big idea: are you willing to be thought of as a crackpot? Or are you a conformist? As Tom Watson says again, follow the path of the unsafe, independent thinker. Expose your ideas to the danger of controversy. That's what I'm doing here with you. That's what I've committed to do in this show. I express my thinking. I've had people attack me for these views. Speak your mind and fear less the label of crackpot than the stigma of conformity. You see, it's quite difficult to do our own thinking. It's much more convenient and comfortable to go along with the crowd. I urge you to do your own thinking. That, in fact, is how the universe, God, whatever you believe in, designed us, because not one of us has had the same set of experiences leading to this day in life when you're watching or listening to this show. Not one person of the almost 8 billion people on the planet. So those experiences then lead to your thinking. But you have to educate yourself. You have to learn. And you have to be willing to be controversial. You have to be willing to have people criticize you. And one of the great principles that I've learned over the years is what other people think of me is none of my business. We all want to be loved. I would love you all to love me passionately, just like Julie loves me. But living a life like that means that you will stand for nothing, because as soon as you stand for something, you will have people who stand for the opposite. So they're not going to love you. They're not going to love me. You also tend to lose friends because you have views that are not going along with the mob. I have lost a number of friends because of the views that I express on this show. So be it. And particularly my views around the Vidco jabs. There are people who are so bought into the government narrative, they are so driven by fear and by lies that they can't conceive that what the government says could be untrue. They have drunk the Kool-Aid. They've taken the blue pill. They are under hypnosis, I say. And I will happily discuss that with any of you who think that you know what's going on. And I'm going to give you 11 reasons why I'm not adopting the government narrative. 11 reasons. And I hope you have the crucial element of education, which is to have an open mind. Now, if you're under hypnosis, it's unlikely, but maybe one of these 11 reasons why I don't buy the narrative will open your mind so that you go, maybe I'm being sold a pup. I've spoken to a number of people, one of them called Phil G. That's his initial. While I'm drinking coffee here. Phil G is an engineer who was reading all the narrative. He believed the narrative initially, and he said, this doesn't make sense. And then he started looking into it, and he goes, this is just a nonsense. This is madness. That's what it can do. That's what education is about. You form a point of view, but you don't close your mind to new possibilities. I hope one of these 11 possibilities might lead you to question the government narrative. Number one, the fact that I can't even call this particular bug by its proper name, because then I get censored, is abhorrent to me. The censorship of truth, the censorship of alternative points of view is an outrage in a free society. Second reason, I'm representing an Australian medical organisation on the World Council for Health. There are 75 medical organisations around the world in the World Council for Health. All 75 reject the government narrative. I have serious accumulated evidence from all of these 75 organisations, plus lots of other evidence, that the government narrative does not stack up. Third reason, my 56 years of learning about health, of understanding health, of understanding the complexity of the human body, that to think that an injection can be applied to everybody is such nonsense that it's just totally contrary to evidence. You, not only do you think differently, your body is different. Number 4, Vidco is not a danger. Global mortality rates, 0.14%. It's just a flu. And I have people tell me, if you saw someone with Vidco in the hospital in ICU, well, that leads to number 5. That people allegedly with Vidco, most of them are overweight and have a whole range of other health problems. They are literally unhealthy and fat. But you're not allowed to say that, because being politically correct, that would mean that I was a fattest. I reject that nonsense. I call it as it is. The vast majority of people who have serious dramas with Vidco are unhealthy and fat. And that's because they don't look after themselves. Even yesterday's newspaper had an article on a sports journalist, Mark Robinson, talking about how he survived 2 heart attacks. Well, he was a smoker all his life, 54, he looks 74, says Julie. He is a diabetic, does bugger all exercise, and then, it's a story because he survived. Well, that's a great testimony to how good the medical profession can be in times of trauma. And there's no doubt about that. They're like gods in times of trauma. But the level of health in our community, in most Western communities, is literally pathetic. Reason number 6. For the last 6 years, I've helped on legal strategy. One of my lawyer friends who has been opening my eyes to the whole big pharmaceutical cartel, to the money available to these drug companies, and the fact that I did not know that since 1986 in America, and now this is being replicated in Australia, pharmaceutical companies are not liable for damage caused by their jabs into little kids. Why would they be indemnified? And the number of jabs going into children when they're born, if you didn't know this, in Australia, I'll give you the number. When I got a couple of jabs as I was a kid, I got about 5 in my first 5 years of life. In Australia today, on the no jab, no pay government process, you have to have 43 jabs. Now, sometimes 3 and 4 at once. I call them, each one of them jab. 43 different chemicals pumped into you in the first 4 years of your life. Don't believe me? Have a look at the government's own website. And I promise you, every person over 40 that I mentioned that number to are shocked by that number. Number 7. The science is absolutely clear. Masks and lockdowns do nothing. The narrative, the government narrative, is an exercise to keep you under control. I reject that absurdity. Number 8, the Vidco injection does nothing. You can still contract it, you can still transmit it, you can still get unwell, you can still have to go to hospital. But it's said, the damage, the experience that you have is much less. Lie. The statistics are being shoved down and distorted. It's a lie. A lot of people are having this Vidco injection just because it's being mandated, just because their jobs are at risk. That's a shocking reason to have this jab. That's not informed consent. It's contrary to the Nuremberg Code. Do you know that? Number 9, the deaths and adverse events from this injection, from all of the injections, is the worst of any injections of all such types in human history. In human history. You start to look at the numbers of adverse events, you'll be shocked. If you don't know what they are, you should be ashamed. Number 10, all members of US Congress, judges in Australia are exempt from the jab. I wonder why that is. Why do you think the members of US Congress don't want this jab if it's going to be so wonderful to protect your health? Number 11, the fact that the Australian government and many governments have indemnified the jab providers from any liability, and that you can't get hold of the contract by which they supply, which these big pharmaceutical companies supply these jabs to government. Why would they need indemnity? And then the members of the EU Parliament, when they demand the contract with these big pharma companies, it is so heavily redacted the contract doesn't mean anything. Redacted. How can a contract with government spending taxpayer money be commercial in confidence? There is lots of corruption going on. I say, as I said earlier, the politicians have been corrupted. They are acting criminally. I say, as a lawyer, their day will come. They will be prosecuted for crimes against humanity. And that's why I reject the government narrative. It's a scandal, it's outrageous, and I urge you to do your own thinking about it. And if any of these 11, I've got many more, start to interrupt the pattern of your thinking, then please start learning more. And I've got a 30-slide presentation that I will happily send to you that will continue your education in this space. So now we come to the resources. Well, of course, the song has to be with Fleetwood Mac because Julie and I were watching a Fleetwood Mac doco. You can go your own way. I urge you to go your own way. Listen to that song. You can go your own way. What's the next line?
Go your own way.
Go your own way. My book, written by a well-known journalist for the Australian newspaper, Greg Sheridan. He's done his own thinking, and his recent book is called God is Good for You. That's a bit controversial, isn't it? Imagine talking about God. I have viewers and listeners of this show who say, mention the word God and I'm out of here. There you are. My health tip for you is that those who have been jabbed with the Vidco jab shed the Vidco. So, those who are unjabbed like me, who will always remain unjabbed, as will Julie, the shedding issue is real. Shedding of variance is real. And so, in terms of health, if you are generally, but particularly if you're unjabbed, you must keep developing your immunity. Take a lot of interest in your body's ability to handle other bugs that are being shed by those who have been jabbed. My spiritual tip for you is that I consider that what's happening around Vidco is in fact not just a medical issue, but a spiritual war going on between light and darkness, between good and evil. I say Big Pharma is evil. I say the game plan of the globalists is evil. I say this is far more at a spiritual level what's going on than you might appreciate. If you don't appreciate that, start to look into it. For those of you who understand spiritual issues, do your ongoing spiritual work. My quote for you is from Steve Irwin, the famous crocodile man, who sadly died in 2004, I think it was. And because I'm helping to educate by expressing my controversial views, Steve Irwin said this. He says, "I believe that education is all about being excited about something. Seeing passion and enthusiasm helps push an educational message." And I'm passionate about what I share with you. And teachers who are passionate about their subject have a greater impact. They impart greater learning. So I agree that being passionate and enthusiastic about what you wish to share has an impact on the person receiving it. And lastly, a spot of humour for you. Now, because I've been doing so much legal strategy advice, not giving legal advice, but legal strategy, I thought, I think we need a little lawyer story, you know. And so the local magistrate had had a busy morning fining prostitutes and dealing with domestic violence cases. He was, as usual, dealing with the lowlife of the city. So imagine his astonishment when he found himself with the most respectable-looking bloke he'd ever seen in his court. And indeed, he was respectable. He was a JP, Justice of the Peace, treasurer of the local Rotary Club, and worked as a chartered accountant. "Sir, why did you climb to the top of the flagpole outside the town hall, shout abuse at people passing by, and then fart Advance Australia Fair?" The defendant thought about it for a moment or two. "Well, it's like this, Your Honour. If I didn't do something mad once in a while, I'd go crazy." Haha. Go crazy once in a while. Expose your ideas to the danger of controversy. Climb a flagpole from time to time. And be true to who you really want to be. Well, that's about it for this week. Be willing to share your ideas. Be courageous. Be passionate about something. I again invite you to visit our websites, covest.com, charlescovest.com. Subscribe to this YouTube or this podcast. Subscribe to Passion Points to Ponder. You can buy my books, Passionate People Produce Passionate Performance, on those websites. And if you enjoy this show, please share it amongst your family, your friends, your colleagues. Thanks for being with us. I wish you a week full of passion, of courageously sharing your views and questioning your own thinking about the government narrative on an issue that is literally tending to destroy the way the world works. Now, some people want to destroy the world. I don't. It's certainly destroying Australia. And while you're doing that, choose to be happy. I'm happy. Julie's happy. Have a great week. I look forward to being with you next week. Bye.